This is ABC15 Mornings.
Churches in the Valley opening their doors today, some for the first time in months. How worship will look a little different.
And there are plenty of mixed emotions surrounding the reopening of the state. We'll hear from some local businesses who aren't quite ready to welcome people back.
And some of the most important stories right now, those offering hope. A unique show of support at the Phoenix Indian Medical Center. We're going to show you more of this awesome traditional ceremony to thank nurses and doctors. Amazing. Wait until you see it. So neat. We love spreading different cultures here and sharing them with you. And so with that, we say good morning to you on this Sunday. I'm NOHELANI GRAF.
And I'm Mark Thompson, social distancing from home. And Nohe, I know that this weekend and particularly this Sunday, a lot of people may be heading back to their places of worship. Yes. And so they're going to want to know what the weather looks like as they head out the door this morning. Yeah,
about the last time that they were able to go to church services, it was a different situation. You needed a light long sleeve as you stepped out the door. Totally different now. It's comfortable. It's actually really nice if you're heading to the early morning services. The later you go, the warmer it's going to be. Right now, the views are gorgeous out there. We do have a few high, thin clouds, but we're staying dry here in the valley. And check out the temperatures. If you're in Chandler or Glendale this morning, it's in the upper 60s. It's really lovely. You could even roll the windows down on your drive to church. In Phoenix, as well as Mesa and Goodyear, we're already in the 70s, so it's still comfortable. And if you're someone who's still deciding to stream your church services, go ahead and take that laptop outside. If you're getting your activity in this morning, maybe a round of golf, that sun is up, so we're going to start to warm up pretty rapidly. And if you have a later tea time, sunset today is at 7:23, but it will be much warmer, 97 degrees at that time. That's lower than our forecast high for today, though. We'll go over just how hot it is going to get coming up in just moments.
All right, Nohe, thank you. And as we just mentioned today, for the first time in 2 months, a lot of people are going to be heading back to those places of worship. And we know that there are some Catholic churches that are going to be holding services for people in person this Sunday. Here's some more information about that. The Diocese of Phoenix says that each individual church will decide when they want to reopen. For instance, St. Juan Diego and its sister church, St. Mary's, is having a service, but they're limiting capacity to 25%. Live streaming options, those are still available, and they're encouraging anyone with any underlying health conditions or who doesn't feel comfortable attending to stay home.
They can sit in their cars and watch the streamed masses, or they can sit at home and watch the streamed masses and then come to mass after mass. They can come and get communion after mass. So there's a lot of different options for people who are more nervous or who have underlying conditions so that they're a little more protected.
And the services themselves will look a little bit different as well. There will be no sign of peace, no drinking of the precious blood, and no hugging or handshaking.
And you know, not everyone is quite ready to get out of the house just yet. There are a lot of mixed emotions out there when it comes to reopening the state. So keep in mind, reopening is voluntary. And as ABC15's Adam WALTZ shows us, just because businesses can be open doesn't mean they will.
Malls, the latest allowed to open, and while many of the businesses are remaining closed, some are taking advantage of any sales they can get.
It's a double dip chocolate peanut.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A sweet reopening for this mall's local candy fix.
My wife and I decided we're just going to open up, see what happens.
Winstead Candy Company inside Chandler Fashion Center taking advantage of the mall's opening day after closing due to COVID-19 in March.
When we had customers reaching out to us, waiting for us to open and wanting to come support us, it meant a ton to us, and we knew that this was the time to open.
This is my wife's favorite thing right now.
Oh, really?
The heart pretzels.
Yeah.
Only 52 of Chandler Fashion Center's 190 businesses took advantage on day one of Governor Doug Ducey allowing malls to reopen. The mall making sure it was a clean reopening.
Wiping down door handles, wiping down tables, cleaning the restrooms more often, really just going through and sanitizing as much as possible.
He said the busiest tenant,
WALTZ Pretzels, has been busy all the time. Those Cinnabons given giving it a run for the money.
Across the valley, a line wrapped around the corner at Arizona Mills for Burlington, and this video from inside Scottsdale Fashion Square showing small crowds and customers social distancing at the food court. In total, 7 Valley malls reopened today. Those businesses
Very encouraged with the amount of people that came in, the sales that are coming in, although not as good as the past. I feel that hopefully sooner than later we'll be able to get back to where we were.
Though business is slow, this Candy King said few sales are better than no sales.
Have a good day. Thanks.
And although the mall itself is open, it's up to the individual businesses to set their own timeline for reopening and implement their own health precautions. In Chandler, Adam Waltz, ABC 15, Arizona.
All right, Adam, thank you. And as people slowly start to get back out and about, the governor is still encouraging people to practice those social distancing guidelines, but it's not as easy as said to be done. That's not always happening. People, they aren't staying 6 feet apart in every situation, but that isn't technically breaking any rules. The stay healthy, return smarter, return stronger. That new initiative has some key words in it, like all individuals should maximize physical distancing from others, and any businesses shall develop established and implement policies.
The governor's order intentionally uses the word should for individuals. They don't want there to be any criminal liability for individuals who are going to stores or restaurants. It uses the word shall for businesses, and that distinction is not accidental. They are trying to force businesses to be more thoughtful about the policies they have in place.
Now, back on the Salt River, there are some new policies in place there as well, like having to wear a mask while renting a tube and limiting the number of guests on those shuttles to and from the water.
We are tracking the number of cases of coronavirus in Arizona. Right now, the Arizona Health Department is reporting more than 450 new coronavirus cases within the past 24 hours. That brings this statewide total to 13,645. There were also 28 more deaths, and let's not normalize these numbers. That means that 679 lives have now been lost. That's 679 families who have lost a loved one to this virus. Now, as the state reopens, Tucson is expanding their local emergency declaration. The mayor there says it is consistent with county, state, and national guidelines. The declaration also lays out a plan and provides some clarity for businesses to get back open. It also protects families who are struggling to pay their water bills or their rent. It's going to continue to hold off on city water disconnections and evictions.
And lots of people out and about this weekend trying to beat the summer heat. Tubers back on the Salt River on Saturday with some safety measures in place. If you go, you'll see employees wearing face coverings, guests wearing bandanas, and the shuttles transporting tubers will be limiting their capacity to 15 people. Now, despite getting the green light on Wednesday, we're learning that most public pools in our area won't be reopening anytime soon. Officials in Tempe telling us that they need to bring back furloughed lifeguards first and do some weeks of training. They're also working to come up with new sanitation protocols. As for Phoenix, officials say that they'll need 30 days to train staff and get their pools ready to go. And more movie theaters, they are practicing some of these same things along the same lines. As of this weekend, they are allowed to reopen, but some are choosing to hold off a bit, at least for now. That includes Harkins, the Valley-based theater chain, telling us that they do not expect to open their locations until the summer with many new safety measures in place.
You know, I've seen on my social media, a lot of people are still hiking right now and trying to find sources of water that way. So if you're someone who's been going out for a hike, you want to make sure that you leave early. It's going to be a lot easier on your body. We're in the 70s right now. We'll stay there for another hour or so, but by midday, it will be in the low 90s already. You've got to make sure that you hydrate and pack more water than you think you need. lead. Later this evening, if you're waiting for a sunset hike, it'll be beautiful because we'll have a few high thin clouds, so the colors will be nice when that sun sets at 7:23, but it's still going to be hot, 99 degrees at that time. And that's just below the forecast high today of 101 degrees. I do think that we'll hit triple digits across most of the valley. Like I said, we are going to see some of these clouds linger, but we will stay dry. It's more the breezes that we're paying attention to. We'll talk about it coming up in that full, most accurate forecast.
All right, Nohe, thank you. And you can hear it there, a show of support for healthcare workers on the front lines in Phoenix. That's the Res Riders, a group of riders devoted to helping Indian communities out. Saturday, they rode into the Phoenix Indian Medical Center, donating 1,000 masks. The center is one of the largest Indian medical centers in the nation. The group blessed the masks in a traditional ceremony outside the hospital, thanking those nurses and doctors who are battling COVID-19. 6:10 now on your Sunday morning. Coming up, Phoenix police investigating an adult drowning overnight. We'll have the very latest on that investigation.
Also, I talked about hiking, and in fact, Scottsdale Fire Department reporting spikes in hikers. So we've got to go over how to stay safe on the trails as these temperatures rise. In fact, if you're heading up Piestewa Peak this morning, giving you a live view from our valley camp, and you can see it's a pretty nice start to the morning. We're glad you're starting it off with us. Stay here.
We've got some breaking news that we want to share with you this morning. A 42-year-old man is dead after he was found inside of a pool, not breathing. This happened early this morning at a home near Greenway and 52nd Street. Phoenix police, they are still on scene trying to put those pieces together, investigate exactly what happened. 3 people are in the hospital after fire crews say that they were exposed to carbon monoxide. It happened yesterday at a home in Mesa. Fire officials say that they found 2 people drinking in a closed garage while the car was running. Hazmat crews arrived and they found very high levels of the gas, and then they evacuated the entire property. A man shot 4 times. Glendale police now looking for who did it. The shooting happened yesterday near 59th Avenue and Bethany Home Road. Police say that the victim was able to talk to them at the time, but they still don't have any information on a possible suspect. Investigators tell us that they are looking for information and they're trying to see if this one was drug related.
Well, the heat is on, but that is not stopping people from hitting the hiking trails. Scottsdale Fire Department says they have seen a spike, in hikers. So they have issued some safety reminders. First, start drinking water the day before your hike. So you should have been loading up yesterday for a hike today. That way your body is fully hydrated. If it's going to be over 90 degrees, which today it will be, you need to leave your dog at home. During your hike, if you are halfway through all of the water that you brought, that's a good indicator that it is time to turn around. Don't push on for a further distance. Also, cover up your skin with some loose, light-fitted clothing. The less skin that you have exposed, the less dehydrated you'll become. And of course, don't forget to wear the right shoes.
We see a lot of folks showing up in sandals, flip-flops. We encourage a good hiking boot, good traction, especially this time of year with all the extra growth that we've had and the increase in snake encounters. The more you cover your feet, the better.
And look, the firefighters don't want to have to trek on up a mountain to come get you either if you roll your ankle. Also, because of social distancing, uphill traffic always has the right of way. Remember your etiquette. So hikers going downhill, you're the ones who should yield or step to the side when somebody comes to pass, and try as best as you can to remain 6 feet apart. That does get challenging on some valley trails, but just do your best and just be good to one another out there. Give somebody a smile as you pass. Now let's talk about that most accurate forecast. If instead you're planning to stay home, get some gardening done. I know there's been a major uptick in that. You want to mow the lawn. We're going to give you the green light because we're staying dry here through the end of the weekend and to start the next part of your work week. Right now, live view of the superstitions. You can see we've got a few high, thin clouds out there that streamed in yesterday, and they are going to linger, but again, we'll stay dry. Our temperatures are mild right now. We've dipped just a little bit post sunrise, so we're in the mid 70s across across much of the valley. Still a few 60s hanging on, and we'll stay in the 70s through about 9 o'clock this morning. Then we warm into the 80s. The 90s show up by 11 o'clock this morning, so just before lunchtime. At noon, we're already sitting at 93 degrees. Temperatures across the state right now, the Grand Canyon is the only spot sitting in the 30s today. Flagstaff and Window Rock in the mid 40s. We've got the 50s in Show Low, Prescott, and Payson to start off the day, and 70s along our western border. Now, temperatures here in the valley, I told you there are still a few spots in the 60s, 68 in Surprise, Peoria, and Buckeye at 66 in Chandler right now, 69 in Fountain Hills. So it's actually a really gorgeous morning to step outside, get that walk around the block, take the dog out if you have to, or go for an early morning bike ride. If you wait until later, you're going to be sweating it out, sweating bullets, in fact. 100 degrees. That's what we'll see today across much of the valley. 101 will be the high in Goodyear, 101 in Levine and Ahwatukee, 102 in Chandler, Gilbert, as well as Maricopa. Northern portion of the valley, you'll stay in the low to mid 90s in places like Cave Creek or Anthem for today. Temperatures across the state, more triple digits to our south in Casa Grande and Gila Bend, upper 90s in Quartzsite and Lake Havasu City. Up in Sedona, if you're heading to the Red Rocks, because they're doing a soft reopening up there, 85 degrees if you're going to be walking around or hitting a trail. 80 degrees in Prescott. North of there, Flagstaff is going to be cooler at 75, and it'll be 80 in Show Low. We will also see some breezes pick up today in the high country. Breezier morning in Sedona as well as Show Low and Payson. And north of the rim, we'll see those stronger breezes later in the afternoon. Mojave County, Colorado River Valley, about 20-mile-an-hour winds for today. Now, high pressure is what's keeping our temperatures warmer, and they'll stay that way through tomorrow. You also see that we stay dry, but then a disturbance passes to our north, and that low pressure system is going to help usher in those breezes and also drop our temperatures over the coming days. So triple digits hang on through tomorrow, but the breezes also pick up here in the valley tomorrow. We're talking gusts possible around 20 miles an hour. Windier conditions on Tuesday as our temperature drops into the 90s, but we could see gusts around 30 miles an hour on Tuesday in the valley. And then on Wednesday, that's the light at the end of the tunnel. Relief when the 80s return to our valley forecast. 89 is that forecast high. I'll show you if the 80s will stick around for the rest of the 7-day and as we head into Memorial Day weekend. That's coming up in just a little bit. Still ahead for you this morning. It is Mental Health Awareness Month, so we're going to go over various options specifically for families who are looking for some support right now. It is National Mental Health Awareness Month, and it has never been more widely recognized by people than in this time of extreme stress and isolation during the pandemic. But there is help out there, especially for families. So joining us this morning is Jason Yonker. He is the West Regional Director of Behavioral Health for Arizona Children's Association. Jason, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So what is the concern that your organization has looking at families and the stress that this is putting on mental health as we come through this pandemic?
Sure. I think a lot of people experience kind of a baseline level of stress and anxiety, but when you add in many of the unknowns about a pandemic like this, that just sort of ramps things up a bit. Then we have the economic stresses with that as well. And then we've got people kind of cooped up and getting cabin fever in their homes, which is not necessarily greatest for mental health. So I think it's the combination of those three things coming together is just increasing the general need for services right now. And additionally, for adults, we've seen an increase in suicide attempts, although for children in our system, there's actually been a slight decrease.
Which is interesting. Do you any thoughts on why that is? Is it just because they're being watched more at home?
Yeah, I think a little bit of the holiday effect. So parents are home with them. They're getting plenty of attention, fewer transitions. So transitions are always hard for kids. And so I think that can be a little bit of a protective factor right now.
I know one thing that we have talked about and that we have seen children as far as an adverse effect is regression, that's instead how they're displaying it. So for families who are noticing a change in the mental health of their children or of other family members, we're saying that there is help out there. So what can you do to help your family?
Sure. I think there's some things that you can do at home. And first among those is make sure that your children know they can talk to you about it. Secondly, I think it's really important to turn off the internet, and sometimes it's too much information for children to handle, and it really needs to be filtered through the adult. I think that's important. Third, routines. It's very important. Children's minds and bodies function well when there's a standard routine and a cycle that they go through each day. And it can be difficult to maintain that right now, but it's critical for their mental health. And then I think a fourth thing would be finding some kind of meaning. If there's anything that your children can do to be of service to somebody else or to help in some way in this pandemic, even if, as they're washing their hands, they're doing it for the good of their neighbors and their grandparents and so on. That kind of a reframe is very helpful.
Not to mention, there are so many ways to reach out and do that. Food banks alone are so desperate for people to volunteer their time simply loading boxes into people's cars. So there's a lot of opportunities for that. However, we do know that parents are stressed and they're navigating so much through homeschooling and then, trying to deal with the other side of keeping their kids happy. So if you do need professional help, what are the resources that are out there? What are you guys doing to help connect those resources?
System-wide, there's been a push to use more telehealth, which allows greater accessibility. So we're able to see more clients during the day and see them in a setting where they're actually experiencing the stress and anxiety. So our bread and butter is helping the access population. And so it's a simple phone call, and we get people into an appointment within 7 days after that phone call.
Any idea about the range of costs that we are talking about?
Folks that are involved in the access system, these services are free for them. And then in terms of the sliding scale, I think it can go up, if you're very high income, it can go up towards $90 an hour and come down as low as $5 an hour for service.
So if people want to reach out, they need to talk to someone with your organization for help and need more resources, best place to go.
You can go straight to our website. It has the phone number. We have folks that pick up the phone every time it's called in English or in Spanish, and they can look at your eligibility and talk to you about setting up an appointment.
Jason Yonker from the Arizona Children's Association. This was such vital information for families. We thank you so much for your time and for sharing it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, it's 5:26 coming up after the break. Parents looking for answers when it comes to summer camp and child care. Plus, a drive-through graduation ceremony celebrating seniors in Mesa.